welcome to the Zach Brown Show, the show that introduces you to old friends for the first time. I'm your host, Zach Brown. On this episode, Michal Ruffin returns to discuss the magic of the movies, and we actually have a couple of firsts for this podcast. Stay tuned for more right after this.
Come on in to Carl's Arcade, where we have all the hottest video games, including Legend Seekers, Ninja Academy, and Jackalope Hunter.
Wow!
You're darn right, wow. At Carl's Arcade, you can win fun prizes, eat the cheesiest pizza, and try the all-new Tube of Mystery.
All right, so just put your hand in there and try to guess what it is.
Is it pudding?
Nope.
Is it peanut butter?
Wrong again.
Well, what is it, mister?
You don't want to know.
Located conveniently near the Windjammer Mall, behind Penny's Popsicles. Carl's Arcade. Live your adventure today.
Oh, boy!
Something that when I set out to do this podcast, I said, I want to get as many people as I can. And I never want to be the guy who runs out of guests and just, he just has the same people over and over, because that seems to be, the signs that you've lost it. You've lost creativity and you just keep going back to the same well. However, when one of your past guests is doing new and exciting things, you want to share those new and exciting things with your friends. So tonight, my friend Michal Ruffin is coming back on the show to share about his new project, Just Another Movie Podcast, or as the kids are calling it, JAMP. And so just before we get into the whole purpose of this, Michal, welcome back to the Zach Brown Show.
Oh, man. Thanks for having me back. Am I your first two-time guest?
Possibly. Maybe.
Do I get a jacket?
Yeah.
Is this like the 5-timers club?
It starts at 2.
Also, in your introduction, you said, once you've had the same people on over and over again, you've kind of lost it. I currently looks at my guest block and just starts scratching off shows. Well, I was going to have Zach on for Raiders of the Lost Ark. You just lost that spot, buddy. Yeah. See what you think about that.
Michal, you are to me one of the biggest lover of movies in my friend base. And when you told me that you were going to start a new podcast that was dedicated to that, to just discussing movies, and right now you're going through the AFI 100, which is an amazing challenge. But then
it's an insane adventure that I'm a whole 3 movies into.
Yeah, and you
barely started the hike.
And you've got all these other things that you could add on to it. The parking lot review that you did for Doctor Strange, just whatever you want to do, you can do it because it's about the movies. We as humans love movies. And so that's what I want to just sit and just chat about tonight. The whole experience that is going to the movies or watching them at home, drive-ins. And why do you think we're so fascinated with movies?
For me, it really is that cliche answer. It's that you remember the scene in Captain America: First Avenger when Steve Rogers, before he's Captain America, when he's just scrawny little Steve from Brooklyn, and he's at the movies, that shot of him in the movies with the light coming off the screen, and he's just sitting there watching the movie. It's that romanticized, escape from reality, for, an hour, or 2 hours or so, whatever if you're watching a movie today, it's probably 2 hours. If you're watching Ben-Hur, it's 5 days. So for me, it's the escape. It's I've had a rough day. Everybody has that movie they turn to when they've had a bad day or they're feeling sad. Some people have a movie when they're homesick from work or from school. Everybody has a favorite movie. And then when you talk about your favorite movies, you realize it breaks down into categories. Oh, this is my favorite Western. This is my favorite Disney movie. This is my favorite sci-fi movie. This is my favorite comedy. This is my favorite Will Ferrell movie. And it's a conversation that just, you realized you started pushing the rock down the hill and it was the size of a softball. And before you know it, it is the boulder from Raiders of the Lost Ark. because it's just built to this and built to this. So for me, that conversation, you can find out so much about somebody just based off what they like in a movie.
Yeah, that's true. I've never thought about that. When, when you look at somebody and go, yeah, they fit in that category.
Yeah.
And also I love when you meet people who they start telling you what they're very passionate about, what film, what genre, and you never would have guessed that, but that's something that they click with. Like my sister-in-law, she loves anime. And I'm like, really?
Really?
Like, oh yeah. And just starts listing all these titles. And I'm like, you're speaking a foreign language. Like, I don't know what you're getting at now.
Yeah. I find that I tell people, everybody's like, oh, what's your favorite movie? And I'm like, oh, it's Blade Runner. And they were like, really? I'm like, yeah. And they were, but then they're like, I saw something like that. And they're talking about like Terry Gilliam's like Brazil. And I'm like, I've never seen that. I actually have no idea what you're talking about on that one. But then they tell me, they're like, I would have taken you more for like your favorite movie would be like Anchorman. And I'm like, I don't really know what you're saying about me, but I mean, your
perception
wrong.
is wrong.
It's my favorite Will Ferrell movie, but like, no, if we're talking all time, it's something different. And
yeah.
You can, I joke that, I have it's a hypothetical figurative test that I put any girl that I've ever dated through. It's called the Blade Runner test. And you have to watch Blade Runner with me. But what they don't know is it doesn't matter what you think about the movie. It's just that you have an opinion. That's it. The only way you can fail it is to fall asleep during it or like turn it off midway, which a few have done. So, you're like doomed there, but that's the Blade Runner test. That's the Kobayashi Maru.
I love it. I think like there's a progress of the movie experience. You hear about the movie, you hear rumors that a movie's in development, then maybe we see some stills, the first trailer, then you get a little bit maybe more. And then the magic thing that happens is when it's the night when you're going to see that movie or the Saturday afternoon. And it's like going to church. You are gathering with people who think alike and are for the same thing. And you're gathering to have a unified experience. And you go in and you get your popcorn and your snacks, or you smuggle them in. No judgment there.
None.
And you make your way into the cathedral that is the theater, and then you select your seat, and you watch as the screen comes aglow and the experience takes place. There's nothing quite like that. There's the smells, the sounds, just it's the best. What was your first memory of going to the theater?
So this is a two-part.
Okay.
The first memory that I have was a good and a bad one. I saw Tom Hanks's Big. I think I may have been 4 or 5.
That was your first in theaters? I
think so.
Okay.
But I also remember getting violently sick during it.
Oh.
Like my mom might be like, no, you didn't. And be like, I have this memory of like vomiting. Like I was sick. Like maybe I ate too much popcorn or ate too much candy or something. I don't know. But I remember being sick, and we left. We left before it was over. And like I said, she'll probably be like, oh, I don't remember that. Or she might just outright deny that story. But I have a vivid memory of it. Or she might be like, oh no, that happened during Pinocchio. Like you've got the memory right, but the wrong movie. Like, okay.
Like, are you able to watch Big now, or do you get
I love it.
You get ill when you watch Big?
Oh no, it wasn't anything to do with the movie. I love it. Yeah. So that, and I also remember, and this is not the second part, the just kind of in addition to that, I remember seeing a re-release of Pinocchio, the Disney Pinocchio, in theaters. And I remember being absolutely terrified of Monstro the Whale because you only think he looks big on TV. Wait, you should see it on a screen. It's probably like seeing Jaws, like, you know, on the big screen, which I've never seen. And it's like on my bucket list. I want to see Jaws on the big screen so badly. But I remember that too. I'm like, I remember being like crying, scared of Monstro the Whale in the movie theaters. But the second part was, I remember the first time that I went to a movie with my own money.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, with my own money. And it's because I believe by this time I was already working. I think I was bagging groceries at the Winn-Dixie, like every high schooler in my, you know, small little country town did. And I remember not even being a fan of the franchise, but I remember taking my like $6 and going to a matinee, or maybe it was a night show, of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Nice.
And of course, I had seen Star Wars, but I wasn't like a fan that's, you know, right now wearing a shirt that says Rebel Scum in the David Bowie font. I
love that. That's fantastic.
I'll send you a link to my friend of mine that sells it. But I remember spending my like $6 to see Phantom Menace. And that was the first time that I had money. And I remember leaving that going, that was good. That wasn't bad. Like, I had no opinion about it. And of course, now being a Star Wars fan, you look back at it and you go, yeah, that one's not great. But I remember seeing it in the theaters, not as a like super fan, and going, well, that was a fun experience. Yeah. I didn't mind that. Pod racing's cool, right? You know,
this is neat. Space NASCAR.
Jar Jar Binks is funny. Like, so those are probably the two I remember. The first in theater, and then the first time I spent my own money.
Yeah. Did you have those movies as a kid that you kind of alluded to earlier, like when you were homesick, or you just like when your friends came over, this was like one of your go-to, like, we're going to put on blank, you know, what was the VHS that you like, the box, it was just tattered and worn?
Probably, of course, because I grew up a Disney kid, probably either Peter Pan or 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh, I love that.
I remember I used to take 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. We used to be able to bring movies from home to like daycare. And so this is, you know, 19. I'm not turning 40 in a few months. Oh my God, wait. Yes, oh my God, I'm turning 40 in like 90 days.
Oh, this is amazing. Folks, we're having our first existential crisis on the podcast. I hope you're enjoying.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Okay. Why did I get mail from AARP today? That's no, I used to take this copy of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which I'm pretty sure was bootleg recorded in 1980s fashion, when you used to you could rent a VCR from the video store, and our neighbors had one. So we'd bring them together, and there was a wire that you could buy from like Radio Shack, and you would hook them together, and it would allow you to tape from tape to tape. Oh, yeah. It would be awful video quality, but you could essentially bootleg burn tapes of movies. So we had all these movies, and of course my mom like wants to extend the life of the video, so we have to do it in the lowest quality possible, so that you get the full 6 hours. Yeah, you know, you get 3 2-hour movies on that tape, and if you lose the last 10 minutes of Top Gun, oh well, you know. We know how it ends. You know, my mom, I think, used to actually stop the credits because that would save time.
That's every minute is precious.
Right. We're trying to get all three. We're trying to get all of Gone with the Wind on one video cassette.
Like, you have to have Gone with the Wind and the Chipmunk Adventure on the same tape.
On the same tape. Right. If I put both Fievel movies on the same tape, it's less I have to do babysitting. No, I don't have to change the tape out. It's
so
just
accurate.
genius.
It's so accurate.
I remember taking this copy of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea to my daycare with my name written on it in like marker and like fingernail polish. Like you knew this was mine. Like my mom wrote my name on it everywhere so that, we knew who to send it home with.
Right.
So I'd say, I'll say 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. That's been one since I was a kid. And Peter Pan is the one that I can remember like sitting on the floor at multiple houses growing up and watching that movie. So I know that's going to be in there.
It's funny. So you're saying about taking it to daycare, and that's jog my memory of movies that we would take to, like church on a Wednesday night or something like that. And I can remember taking a Goofy movie or whatever. But it's kind of funny. I associate.
You took a Goofy movie to church when you were a kid. Oh, that's adorable. I was like in high school, I think, when a Goofy movie came out.
But it's funny how there's movies that like when I see them now, that I place them at different people's houses. You know what I mean? Or where I was watching them. So, like when I think of the, original Disney Alice in Wonderland or Dumbo, it's my grandparents' house. If it's like you're saying 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or Swiss Family Robinson, that's, that's at my buddy Chris's house during the summertime. Or, my grandmother's house was Baby's Day Out, if you've ever seen that John Hughes movie, with Joe Montana or whatever. It was just like these were the long trailer with Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Like that was a movie that we only ever watched at Grandma's house. So whenever that movie comes on now,
for me, Grandma is Dolly Parton movies. So 9 to 5 for sure. Probably Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, even though I was probably 6.
And it was your grandma's house.
But it was my grandma's house and it was the 80s. So, it was fine, But I remember, 9 to 5. I remember watching 9 to 5 at my grandma's house as a kid. So
it's great how that the movie experience transcends. It's much more than a film. You know what I mean? Like it's the thing that inspires you, like you're saying, Steve Rogers, to go out in the yard and play, to dress up like the character. Why are we as grown men dressing up like Ghostbusters and Star Wars characters? Because we love these films and we want to be as close to them as possible. And we want to be in these worlds. Like you said, it's an escape. The world's a crazy, crazy place. But if for a few minutes we can jump into a pod race or standing with, Venkman and Spangler as you're fighting Gozer, you feel like the man. And it's the coolest thing ever just to have that moment of this is all going to be okay in 120 minutes.
What's funny is I have pictures of me as a kid, probably 9, maybe 10 years old, in Universal Studios back when the Ghostbusters used to have a show at Universal Orlando. I have pictures with me with the Ghostbuster characters after the show. And they're like, cosplay's not childhood rooted at all. No, I'm not looking at a full Ghostbuster suit hanging on my door right there. No, not at all. So, also, what's really funny about Ghostbusters is I was a fan of Ghostbusters, not because of the original movie, but because of Ghostbusters 2.
Okay.
Also, and the real Ghostbusters cartoon series.
Yeah.
That was my Ghostbusters. I probably didn't see the original Ghostbusters movie till I was probably in my teens. But I saw Ghostbusters 2 probably in theaters, and I used to watch real Ghostbusters and eat the Ghostbuster cereal every Saturday morning. Like that was religious right there.
Did you drink Ecto Cooler?
I did. I see Ecto Cooler, which by the way, you can make. You need it's half Tampico citrus punch, half Minute Maid lemonade, and green food coloring. I'm just saying it's very close.
So, okay, I have to point out, this is another first. So this is the first show we've had somebody have an existential crisis about growing older and also sharing recipes. Where else can you get this?
You bring me onto your show, I'll break every mold you ever had. I will break whatever algorithm the podcast apps have you stuck in. If it listens to every word in the show and then sends it out based off the data collected, I will break your algorithm.
Break. That's gonna be the secondary title of this episode. Michal Ruffin, breaking the algorithm.
Breaking the podcast algorithm. We talked about everything and nothing. It was like an episode of Seinfeld.
What happened? I'm not sure, but I'm happy about it.
I'm not sure, but it was good.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know why it was good, but it's good. I can't pinpoint why.
It's like Jell-O. I'm not sure why I like it, but I'm sure glad it's here.
But it's there. Is that a one of those arcade up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle machines?
Yes, it is.
That's amazing. Love it. Also, the Rocketeer. I've always wanted to do a Rocketeer for Dapper Day.
Yes, that's the other. Okay.
That helmet is so expensive.
Right. Michael and I are now having like ADD.
Sorry,
tangent.
this is going to go off rails. Yeah.
So, yes, pretty much that. Yes, I have an arcade machine here in the studio and a Rocketeer poster because why not? I was wearing a Jungle Cruise skipper hat the other day, and a friend of mine said, "Why are you wearing a skipper hat?" And I said, "Because I don't have a Rocketeer helmet." That was
man. I have a friend that is in the 501st that does like a stormtrooper. He actually owns a pink stormtrooper suit simply so that he can do breast cancer events in October.
That'll work.
That's the only reason. It's the only reason.
You probably don't get too many of those out there, so you definitely be that.
But if you ever get one, he's your guy. I told him I wanted to do a Rocketeer cosplay or Rocketeer bound for Dapper Day, and because that movie just throws to that 40s, 30s, 40s fashion look. That helmet, I think the cheapest I've ever seen it was about $400.
Yeah,
I was like,
they're not.
Oh man,
they're not going to be on the discount shelf.
No, because most of the time they're custom made.
Come with us to a tropical getaway like no other. At Babambaboo Bay, all your vacation dreams go beyond anything you dare imagine.
Is that a good thing?
See exotic wildlife.
Huh. That's awesome.
At Babambaboo Bay, you can charter a deep-sea fishing excursion.
This feels wrong.
Personal cabanas featuring luxurious amenities.
That is the biggest possum I have ever seen.
When the sun goes down, things really begin to heat up. Dine by moonlight at Enrile's Hibachi.
My eyebrows are gone!
And dance until the morning to the soulful sounds of Papa Luvi and the Clumpy Bunch. Let your stress melt away as you swim in the crystal clear waters of Babambaboo Bay.
Babambaboo Bay?
Babambaboo Bay.
Baba Ganoush. Babambaboo Bay? No. Yes? No.
Babambaboo Bay.
All right.
All right. Babambaboo Bay. A vacation like no other.
All right, back to the show. So you've tapped now into a genre that I love, and that is kind of historical fiction. When you get things that are set in the real world or, based on real events, but then they kind of have these like fantastical ideas or characters or new rules that are just kind of outside of the normal. I love that stuff. So like Rocketeer, where you're like, could that happen? Yeah, pretty much. It could all happen. There's no superpowers. There's nothing like that. But I love that kind of stuff where it's fun, where it's like, yeah, the Nazis, they're bad guys. We know that. We know that we don't like them.
Like we get it. He's Iron Man.
Pretty much.
We get it. Like you don't have to point it out. Like, we understand. But yeah, it's Stark technology. It literally is Howard Stark.
And Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah. But come on, so you like historical things that kind of bend the rules, kind of bend, maybe like bring in a little bit of modern kind of blur those lines a tad.
Yeah. Like, I think it's fun because it's the whole like, ooh, this is familiar, but let's play around with that a little bit. Let's
I'm going to
it's kind of a what if.
I'm going to suggest something then.
Okay.
Obviously, you've seen Psycho.
Of course.
Okay. Have you watched Bates Motel?
No.
There's like maybe 5 seasons.
Okay.
It's done now. It's been done for a few years. Freddie Hightower, most famously probably known. Now he's on a show called The Good Doctor on CBS.
Oh yeah, he was
I think.
from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Finding Neverland.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
great.
But he plays a young Norman Bates, and obviously you know where this is going to end. You know where they're building.
Uh-huh.
You know where this is going, but they don't set it in the same time period.
Oh, interesting.
So it's very interesting. I just want to, just drop that in there because I was like, I think you might actually like this.
There's either folks there's 2 things happening right now. Folks that are either going, what is this? What are they talking about? Or somebody's screaming at their phone going, oh, it's so good. Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, I love that show.
So Michael, when the last time you were here, we talked about, your previous podcast, The Moving Platform. It was very park centric, and there are so many park centric podcasts, and that season came and went, and now you're on a new venture. What was the what spurred you on to start this new chapter?
Obviously, The Moving Platform was something that I love and I miss doing. But it was something that it kind of required me, and I say required, but I don't mean that there are people across the country, across the world that do Disney theme park based content that live nowhere near Orlando, live further away from Orlando than I do. So, I say required in that for me, it was required because I liked being able to, I called The Moving Platform a hub and spoke design, much like the Disney park, much like Magic Kingdom. Whereas, The Moving Platform was the center, and then you had the spokes, you had the Instagram, you had the YouTube videos, you had the podcast, you had the blog, you had, you kind of went to different areas. There were different branches of it. And once I left Orlando, I knew that I wouldn't be able, it was going to be very hard to keep up both the Instagram and the YouTube. And pretty much the only thing I'd be able to keep up would be the podcast and the blog. But then I didn't want to become let's check in this week with the news. Well, this week, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind opened. And I'm like, I didn't want to become that. I didn't want to do that. So I
knew be white noise in a sea of so many other news sites.
Exactly. And I didn't want to just become some other Disney news source when there's so many different ones out there, some good, some not great, but we were good on that. So I just didn't want to do that. And I moved from Orlando about 8 months ago. Shocking to think it's been that long.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yes, I moved in September. So it's, I moved from Orlando to Austin, Texas, like everybody else in the country is. Everybody is rushing to Austin. It is nuts. But I got here and I was like, I had no hobbies. Like I quickly was just becoming a go to work, come home, go to work, come home. And I was like, I need something. And I was like, I miss sitting down and talking about something that I like and recording it, like a podcast or something. I needed to do something content wise. And I had always had this idea of just being a movie podcast. I didn't know what my niche would be. I didn't know what would make me stand out. I didn't know what would make me different. There's so many out there and everybody's got a gimmick. And I was like, I don't want to do a gimmicky movie podcast. Oh, we're going to watch the every Disney movie ever podcast. No, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do hey, we're going to do a podcast about watching the Marvel Cinematic Universe in chronological order and then talk about each of the movies. I didn't want to do that. So I kept thinking, what is this? Like, what is this thing? And I was sitting there looking with a yellow legal pad And I literally just written movie podcast. That's all I had written. And I was sitting there going, if I can't get an idea, I'm not going to do this. Like this is, I'm just wasting time and energy. If I don't have something, if there's no creative spark and there's no reason to do this and there's no motivation, then I'm not going to bother. Mm-hmm. And then I sat there and I went, it's just another movie podcast. And I was like,
light bulb.
It's just another movie podcast. And I'm like, that's it. Like it, yeah, that may sound a bit dismissive. And what's special about your show? Nothing. It's just another movie podcast. But here's the thing I can promise you. I'm not going to be the guy on here that's like, I'm going to be the new, I'm going to be the new Gene, was it Gene Siskel?
Yeah, Siskel and Ebert.
Siskel and Ebert. And I'm not going to be Roger Ebert or Richard Roper. I'm not going to be, the film critic from the Chicago Tribune. I'm not going to approach this like I went to film school, like I know what I'm talking about and I know better than George Lucas. Yeah, Steven Spielberg. What a joke. I don't go into it like that. So I said, this is it. This is just another movie podcast. This is what it would sound like if a guy who likes movies watches said movie and then just talks about what he liked and maybe what he didn't like about the movie. And sometimes I'll have my friends on. And I'd always had the idea, and I know I'm probably jumping 3 and 4 steps ahead of you.
Nope, you're leading right where I'm going.
I'm leading right where I've always heard I do that. I lead right where we're going. I just lead right down. I got the crazy idea. I'm going to watch all 100 movies on the AFI 100. And then I realized that even watching 2 movies a week, it would take me more than a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what have I done? I've already put up 1 episode. I can't back out now. I've done it. And it's the most listened to episode of the show so far. And I'm Fantastic. Like, oh no. You would think the Disney guy talks about his 5 favorite Disney movies or the 5 Disney movies that he's never seen. Mm-hmm. Those would be the ones that people would have listened to. No. It's episode 1 or episode 3 or 4 show of number 100, Ben-Hur. People wanted to hear what I had to say about Ben-Hur. And and I think it's because they don't have time to watch Ben-Hur. You got to take a day off of work.
That's true. I never thought about that.
You got to block out some time. You got to block out 4.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot, man.
You got me to watch it. I enjoyed it.
I did. And then I came back and I was like, hey, do you want to sit in on this one? And you were like, nah, I'm good.
Nah, I'm good. Well, and here's the thing. And you just kind of inspired me, actually. Liberated is more the term, because you just said that, you weren't coming at this as somebody who is educated or about movies, or that you're this, professional, but you were just saying what you liked or possibly didn't like. And I was like, man, I don't feel qualified to talk about this film that I've seen one time. Yeah. But who knows? I think that's kind of great that folks are really get into that episode.
If you've not, I know you have, but if you're listening to this and you've not listened to the Ben-Hur episode, which I recommend you do,
put a link in the show notes.
I at one point compare Ben-Hur to The Lion King 1.5.
You did. And I thought that was a bold statement.
A bold choice. A bold choice.
So great.
But I made it make sense.
You're not wrong.
And another thing that I've started doing, and I've done just the one so far, was the parking lot review, mm-hmm. which I have to give credit to a friend of mine, my friend Will, when this was back in the days when we go to midnight showings. Mm-hmm. Which I think the last one of those I ever went to was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Of course, you go in, movie starts at 12:01, and you get out of the theater at whenever. And then we would all go far enough away from the doors, even though there was nobody waiting to go in. It's 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. But we'd go off into the grassy little area in the parking lot, and we'd listen to Will give his parking lot review. And he would just talk about what he liked and what he didn't like. And he'd just give his first initial thoughts. And I'm like, this is genius. I get in my car. I don't need my fancy mic for this. I don't want it to sound like I rushed home, hooked up my microphone, sat down, prepped a show. I wanted to sound like I literally just walked to my car from the theater, got in here and pressed record and started talking about this movie. And with these, I remain spoiler free for the first half. And then I give you a sign off, and then I count you down from 5, and then we enter the spoiler room brawl. Where
I think that's pretty smart.
It's all goes. If you stick around through the end and you didn't want spoilers, I warned you. You can't get mad at me. So, like,
no, I think that's cool because you give them like half the show where they can listen. If they haven't, they get a taste, and then they can come back later.
You can listen to the first half of a parking lot review show. And I'll give you something like, for Doctor Strange, I put, you need to have done your homework. You need to have, this is the first time that I felt that the MCU required you to have prior knowledge. And I didn't have it. And I felt like I walked into a college lecture of a course that I was jumping in mid-semester. And I left very confused with a lot of questions. And that's the kind of stuff I reveal in the first half of those. Mm-hmm. And then I say, okay, that's my thoughts on this. I give it a B+ out of the grade scale. And now we're going to go into the spoilers. Thanks for listening. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And that's what, and that way I get to talk about the thing that I'm really excited about. Mm-hmm. Because everybody wants to blow that steam off. It's the thing you want to do. You want to jump on Facebook and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they killed insert character here. Yeah. And you got to realize, you just got in the movie 10 minutes ago. People haven't seen it because they didn't go to the 4:00 show on Thursday like you did.
Yeah.
They have jobs, so this allows me that chance to blow off that steam and get that out there and put it out there that if people that don't care want to listen to it, they can. And it was funny is that first week of the parking lot review, I didn't get maybe like 20 listens. And then like, as soon as we hit the 1 week mark, it like tripled.
That's awesome.
In like overnight, I was like, yeah, because people had seen the movie at that point. Mm-hmm.
I waited till after I saw the film, and then I went back and I was like, okay, now
you can listen to this and you don't have to stop midway.
Yeah. I'm a completist. I don't want to get in the middle of this thing and then have to bail. I want to sit. I want to listen to the whole thing. I want to experience it.
Exactly.
So for not a spoiler, just to kind of tease our listeners for your show, outside of the AFI 100, what are some things that you want to do that kind of gets you excited personally about your own project? What are some topics or maybe series that you'd like to kind of do throughout the run of the show?
I really enjoyed doing, I will never do a top 5 best, top 5 worst. You'll never hear me do a ranked list outside of the AFI 100. And that's not my ranking. That is what the American Film Institute deems to be the 100 greatest movies of all time. I did not decide to put Ben-Hur at number 100 and to put Toy Story at 99. I didn't make that call. Somebody I'm assuming a committee of well-educated people, more educated than I, made that decision, and I will respect that decision, and I will do these shows in the order that they intended me to do them in. So you'll never hear me do best and worst, because to me, that's my opinion. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion. Just because I think Blade Runner is the best sci-fi movie of all time doesn't mean that you saying Star Trek: The Voyage Home is the best sci-fi movie of all time is not wrong. It's not wrong. Yeah. Just because I like In-N-Out Burger and you like Whataburger doesn't mean either one of us is wrong. So I never want to do that. I enjoyed doing the 5 favorites. Here are my 5 favorites in no particular order. I didn't rank these. I wrote down a decent list, and then I struggled for hours mentally to break it down to 5 because I said 5 and I need to cut this thing down to 5, but then I don't rank them after that. I just don't take them as a ranking.
Yeah.
And then I enjoyed doing the 5 that I'd never seen. I think that was the one I got the most feedback about, was people were kind of shocked that I had never seen the Aristocats. And then I had never seen either version of the Parent Trap. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I just haven't.
Well, I know what to tell you. They're both on Disney Plus.
They're both on Disney Plus. They're all on Disney. Every one of these movies on this 5 that I've never seen are on Disney Plus. So I just need to, I need to just go and watch them. I would love to do more of that. I want to do my 5 favorite, of like the multiple genres. Western.
Yeah, that's fun.
I love a good Western. So, I want to do like my 5 favorite Westerns. I want to do my 5 favorite sci-fi because Blade Runner is my favorite, but it doesn't mean I don't like Star Wars and I don't like Star Trek and I don't like other sci-fi movies. And then I can do 5 sci-fi that I've never seen. And I get to talk about the fact that I've never seen 2001: A Space Odyssey or Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, we got to fix that.
I know. I think 2001 is on the AFI list. It's on there somewhere. It's gotta be. I don't know where. I would say that's it, probably in the top 20. So it might be a little while before we get there, but we're going to slog our way through and we're going to get there. And I know that some of these movies, I'm looking at some of the ones coming up in the 90s and I'm like, I've never even heard of that. What is that? And then I look up and I'm like, oh, I'm just not looking forward to that. So I would love to do more of that. I'm looking forward to doing more. I'm doing more of the parking lot reviews. And I would like to see this. Austin is a very big town with like South by Southwest. I would love to see this go to where maybe one year I've got enough, clout, behind me that I can maybe submit for a South by Southwest press pass. And I get to go to like a cool screening and I get to go to like a Q&A for like a Robert Rodriguez movie or something like that, or a Wes Anderson movie. That would be cool. I would definitely. I think that would be cool because then I'll have the people that I don't want to be surrounding me. And here's this idiot, everybody's talking about the stylizations in the Wes Anderson films. And I'm like, that's the one with Owen Wilson. That one's funny. I'm like, here's this goof. Here's this moron. Where'd you go to film school? I didn't.
Either that or they're like, this is refreshing. Let me talk to this fella.
Right. So let me get this straight. You like Back to the Future 3 better
Mr.
than the
Anderson.
first movie. Yes, Mr. Spielberg. That's what I said. I bet you Robert Zemeckis agrees with me. Why don't you ask him?
I love it. Well, Mike, I am going to make sure that we get your show linked in the show notes for people to check that out because it's fun. How can our listeners, our friends, our family, find out more about what you're doing? How can they follow along? How can they get connected with you virtually?
Oh man. Let's see. There is a Facebook page, facebook.com/Just Another Movie Podcast. That should work. If it doesn't, if you type in Just Another Movie Podcast in Facebook search, it will come up. Instagram, same thing, Just Another Movie Podcast. On Spotify and Apple Podcast. I believe it's also on Google Podcast as well. But mostly the ones I focus the most on are Apple Podcasts, Spotify, because that seems to be the two that people listen to the most. You can find it there. I haven't done anything with YouTube yet because I feel that even with 30-minute episodes without any video to it, it's not really something I need to do. But you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram. Don't do TikTok. Don't do Reddit. So not yet, at least. Cool. This is the way the social media game changes, man. Who knows? You'll find me doing dance trends on TikTok before you know it.
We can only hope.
Went hold my breath.
Mike, thanks for coming back and hanging out.
Thanks for having
miss
me,
you
man.
dearly, my friend.
I was saying the other day, somebody asked me, they were like, "Oh, do you miss living near Disney?" And I'm like, yeah, I miss on a clear night being able to go up to the top of the hills and see the fireworks. I miss that.
Mm-hmm.
I miss being 25 minutes from the TTC parking lot. And I miss my people. I miss my friends. I do.
Yeah.
And I consider you at the top of that list. I miss my people. So it's always good to talk to you and see you virtually, at least.
I know. So we need to get together the next time you're in town, or I got to come out to Austin, one of the two.
Man, come out to Austin. I'll take you to get some good barbecue, and I'll take you to my favorite ramen place. I lost 90 pounds, and then I moved to a city whose personality is food.
Well, you said ramen, so I'm already there.
Yeah.
Well, that's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Once again, I'd like to thank our guest, Michal Ruffin, for taking the time to chat with us. If you want to hear more from Michal, make sure to check out his podcast, Just Another Movie Podcast. I'm Zach Brown, and I want you to remember, if it doesn't wiggle, it's probably not Jell-O. Have a good one.